deceived and betrayed, Russia fears negotiations with the USA. And the writer says, he's writing from Russia, he says, "We were betrayed, deceived, everything is lost, disaster awaits us. At the moment, such reactions are expressed not only in Kiev and Europe, similar discussions can be heard in Russia. Who is dissatisfied and why exactly? Fears arise due to the start of negotiations between Russia and the US, which are interpreted almost as the beginning of a betrayal of the Russian people, Russia's national interests, and an abandonment of everything that has been said and done over the past 3 years. As soon as the US showed interest in negotiations, the Western elites immediately rushed to meet Russians because that is what they have been dreaming about all this time, and they are ready to turn 180 degrees, forget everything they said about the war in the West, abandon and turn to the East, and liberate all of Ukraine, the promotion of traditional values, and the protection of the Russian people. All the sacrifices were in vain, and they did not reach what they wanted, and they were ready to trust the West again, to make an agreement with the West, and it understands only force and will deceive us again, the Russians that is. But maybe the Russian leaders are not naive and gullible, but they always wanted only the recognition of the West and were willing to pay for it with Russians. Similar thoughts will multiply as a negotiation between Russia and the US progress, and they will be aimed primarily at the patriotically oriented public. Because the small liberal minority has always understood everything, they have long been explained to them that Putin is a demon and everything he does only leads to new suffering for Russia. It's bad that he started the special military operation SMO. Even worse if he ends it by concluding an agreement with the West. But those who truly love Russia are harder to deceive. They need to be convinced that Putin is a false patriot, that he does everything by halves, and that he does not think about Russia, but about his own power. And the upcoming peace negotiations are therefore the ideal occasion to start the "we were betrayed" topic. All this has already happened in Russian history, and once it ended in national disaster, when 2 years after the start of World War I, the myth began to spread that the royal court, they had the Tsar there, of course, the Tsar Nicholas. Began to spread that the royal court was ready for a separate peace with Germany, which strengthened the conspiracy that led to the collapse of February 1917. But are peace negotiations really on the agenda now? Yes, the United States is ready to hold them with Russia, and Russia did not refuse. And although there are many obstacles on the way to reaching an agreement on Ukraine, let's imagine that a truce has already been concluded. Not a peace treaty, but a simple truce. Sanctions are starting to be lifted from Russia, contacts with the West being resumed. Does this mean a return to the situation of early 2022? Of course not. Russia is not abandoning any of its demands to the West, which were already set at the end of 2021, neither for Ukraine nor for the European security, nor for the world order. Russia is not abandoning to the turn to the East, which began long before 2022, nor the struggle to build a new post-Western world order, nor the fight against the anti-human philosophy of transhumanism and the defense of its own values. Russia is not returning or forgiving those who left the country to fight against it from the territory of the West, and it's not abandoning its policy of nationalizing its elites, mines, and capital, as well as its policy of building a truly just and national-oriented society, a full self-sufficient Russian cultural entity, free both from any severity to the outside world and from excessive belittling of other cultures. Russia changed over the past 3 years, but with the return of veterans from the front back home, those changes will proceed faster and more fundamentally. Because you can make mistakes, but you can't lie. This is not just the motto of Minister Belousov, but also an inevitable fundamental principle of future post-war life. Post-war, because if the ceasefire in Ukraine is a result of a temporary agreement with the United States, which benefits Russia temporarily, then a new conflict would inevitably follow in a year or two or 5. But who said that Russia would agree to a temporary pause under conditions unfavorable to it? Who said that Ukraine's return to the orbit of Russia cannot be accelerated by non-military means without abandoning the military at the same time? Who said that Russia will agree to leave Ukraine in the hands of the West? This will never happen, and to understand this, one does not need to study leaks from the highest circles, but to know Russian history and understand the views of position of Vladimir Putin, and in the fact that he will not betray or deceive. There is no doubt not only Ukraine, which is Little Russia, but also the whole of Great Russia. This is written by Peter Akopov. In other words, this person believes that Russia will never let go of Ukraine. They consider it Little Ukraine. Let's remember that Russia started from Kiev. The Russian nation started conquering all that to the east from Kiev. There are various history lessons given by history professors on Russian history. I was, a couple of years ago, I did see a section of that. I learned a lot because I didn't read on that. But you can read see one of those YouTube videos. Very nice. A professor explains how Russia expanded and conquered whatever was there from Kiev. So that's why the philosophy of Russia says Kiev, Ukraine is Little Russia. So I don't know. Is it the goal of Putin to retake all of Ukraine? I don't know. I'm not in their mind, so I have no idea. Anyway, please leave your comments about this. Thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.